Hey folks, this is Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we're taking a look at a knife that I bought probably in November. And just didn't seem to have a good opportunity to review this. Today's as good day as any, I guess. I'm recording this on Saturday morning. Probably won't publish it till Sunday afternoon because I've got some family coming over this afternoon, but here we go. This knife, wooden handle, not a full tang. It's a single wooden handle piece. So they drill a hole for the tang down the middle of the wood, and so there's a spot right there where it's pinned. So it's about 2/3 tang, and rosewood handle, unknown steel blade. It seems like a stainless steel from the test that I've done, and it's got a hammered look finish. I think it's a machine pressed to get the little holes in there and not actually individually hammered strokes. Comes in a leather sheath. It looks sort of like real leather. It looks sort of like fake leather. I suspect when in doubt, it's probably fake. But it's got a nice snap. It's got a decent blade holder. But even with that nice snap, you can still put the knife in and out. Without undoing that snap. Yeah, but now I'm already getting into the review. Do you want to stick around for the whole thing? You do. Keep watching. Here's a closer look at it. They got some nice stitching in here. They did a fairly good job putting it together. Decent work done to make this sheath. Proper rivets, proper snaps instead of Velcro. So it's a well-constructed sheath, but simply the shape of the handle here, there's really nothing they can do to strap it in so that it's going to be hard to remove, because that's just a very little bit of a rise right here, and it's tough to make a strap go right over there well enough to give it a really firm hold, So reasonably decent, but not superior. So here's the knife itself. They say the handle is rosewood, and it looks exactly like a rosewood. I used to be in woodworking. I was actually an apprentice cabinet maker for a while, until my knees went totally shot. And, I did that for a while. Anyhow, so I know some of my woods. This is a relatively decent wood, but they didn't have it properly kiln dried before they started using it. And that's because when I got this thing around November, it was very comfortable in hand. Now it's very comfortable in hand, except for the fact that the pins, you might even be able to see some reflection right there. The pins stick out just a little bit. Here's some close-up shots of that. And it does it on both sides. So no, it didn't just move out one side. It's a little shallower on this side and a little bit higher on this side. And that means that the wood has shrunk a fair bit. For this small piece of wood to shrink enough, well over 1 millimeter, if you count both sides, that it's shrunk. So yeah, they were using wet wood when they started. That's not going to be too big a deal. I'm going to hopefully record how I remedy this. I'm just going to put this on a very hard surface. I don't have a proper anvil, but I've got a clamp that's got, a big vise that's got a sort of a anvil type surface on it. And you put the metal down on that surface and you use a peening hammer. That's a hammer with a round head. And you smack on this until it sort of rounds it over. And that actually broadens this piece of brass or bronze, whatever it is. I think it's going to be brass. Spreads it out and gives it a smoother surface here. And it holds the knife blade in there tight. Now this tang is tight. There's no movement at all. It's a good solid tang. I even did a little bit of batoning of some kindling, and it worked just fine for this knife. Nothing came loose. So that's pretty good. We've got a brass front here, but it's not any larger than the knife. It's been, sanded down to the same handle. It's been sanded down to the same size of the handle. So it's not a big bolster or anything. It's just a little bit of a transition bolster. And, the glue up job isn't awesome. By the way, $9.40 US for this thing. So you can't really expect too terribly much. You can't ask for too much when it's that price. And in some countries, you're going to pay shipping. In some countries, you're not. Like in North America, if you're in the United States, you don't pay shipping for this from GearBest. If you're in Canada, you're going to pay a little over $1 shipping if you buy this knife. So it just depends on where you live. Even in Europe, France, no shipping. Germany, a little bit of shipping. You know, it's weird. But it has something to do with, I think, GearBest has subsidized shipping rates for most countries, and from the Chinese government, I think. That's just a guess. I'm not sure how they can ship for such a low cost. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Handle. Oh, this handle is comfortable. Very, very comfortable. My hands are between large and extra large men's. My wife's hands are women's medium. I think this thing is super comfortable. She says it's very comfortable as well. And so she used it for a while. And so this handle's got something about it which makes it very, very comfortable. And because it's a little bit bigger than a lot of knife handles, it fills in the hand very well, and it's good for a long, hard use. So, you know, I was cutting a whole bunch of cardboard with this, and, you know, you can do that for a long time and your hand does not get tired. The handle, how comfortable this shape is the big plus for this knife. Now, the cons, I don't know what kind of steel this is, and it's not 60 Rockwell hardness like they say. Because I did do a little bit of sharpening on. I think this is between 56 and 57 Rockwell hardness, and that's just an educated guess of a knife guy that's been sharpening knives for a long, long time. The spine of the blade has got a nice square spine. You know, it's got these dents all over the blade, and so the spine here's got all kinds of weird wiggles to it. And I took it to my ferro rod, and, you know, it's easy to throw a lot of hard sparks with this thing, and no problem at all to do that. Leaves a little bit of residue on the blade, but that wipes off quite easily. So this is a decent outdoor camp EDC kind of knife, or, you know, your home backyard work in the garden kind of knife, because how comfortable this handle is. We've got a hollow grind that comes up about halfway. We've got a fairly thick blade. Hey, why don't we just do all the dimensions right now before, you know, I start saying all the dimensions without putting in our little magic dimension system sign here, I should say. Let's zoom in just a bit. So let's get all these dimensions out of the way. The cutting edge length is 8.5 centimeters, 3.35 inches. The blade length from the tip to the bolster here, 9.12 centimeters, 3.59 inches. The blade thickness, it's quite a bit thicker than GearBest says, 4.1 millimeters. That's 0.01615. The blade depth, that's about an inch up. 2.44 centimeters, that's 0.9615 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, not so good. 0.94 millimeters, 0.037 inches. I'd rather have it to be around half a millimeter, so it's almost twice as thick at the edge as I would like it to be. So it's not for doing really fine, delicate work. You know, it's quite sharp from the factory. 145 is the sharpness factor that I got out of it, and 200 is considered sharp. So 145 is very sharp. So it's a nice sharp blade. The blade depth, did I do the blade depth? Yeah, I did the blade depth. The grind angle. The grind angle on this knife, 20.3 degrees on this side, 24.9 degrees on that side. So not excellent, but quite good hand sharpening that they do at the factory. Almost all knives made these days and around the world, even the real expensive ones, are still hand sharpened. Nothing wrong with that, except for the fact that invariably people sharpen one side at a greater angle than the other. It's just the way the human hands work. The handle. Handle length is 9.91 centimeters, so basically a 10 centimeter handle. That's about 3.9 inches, so 4 inches. So a 4-inch handle and, you know, a 3.5-inch blade. Not bad range there. That's very rough numbers. The handle thickness, 2.23 centimeters. That's 0.878 of an inch. So a lot of folding knives that I like are around half an inch thick, and this is 0.87 or 0.88. So it's quite a bit thicker, but because it's so well rounded and it's got a nice finger, it's so very comfortable. The handle depth, is biggest right behind this first choil, 3.3 centimeters, 1.3 inches. The grip space in here is about 9 centimeters, which is 3.54 inches. The total length of the knife from tip to the very end, 19 centimeters, almost 7.5 inches. It weighs 102 grams, which is 3.6 ounces. You add this, and it's 147 grams, 5.15 ounces. So it's not a super heavy knife. It doesn't get in the way. You know, the pros and cons, I've already gone over some of them. Let's go over all of them. The pros, you've got a nice thick blade. They've made it fairly sharp from the factory, and the angles aren't too bad, so it's not going to be too crazy to, you know, sharpen this knife. That's pro. Con about the blade, I wish the hollow grind came up higher. I wish the hollow grind was thinner at the edge, and that would help it to last a whole lot longer. You can sharpen this knife probably 10, 15, 20 times maximum, and you're going to be getting into steel that's just too thick for this to be a very functional knife. Decent sharpener's choil that they've put in here. Not bad. Very, very comfortable in hand. That's the big, big plus. It can strike a ferro rod. That's a good thing. The cons, I already said, too thick. The wood was not dry when it came from the factory, so you're going to have to do some work here. If you don't have hammers and stuff to knock that down, you can use sanding to sand this down, but probably something motorized will do a best job, because trying to sand that by hand, you're just going to round it over a little bit, and you're going to take away wood way more than you do take away any of this metal. So like a palm sander or something, that will help you get a little bit better and, you know, sand it down. You can do it that way, or you can do the peening job, whichever one you want to do. Some more cons are, you know, it looks like human-made leather, and, you know, the blade can be put in and out, you know, without, you know, having to take the snap off. It does hold it quite tight. Like if I push it in here like this, that does hold it very tight. Like I can hold it upside down and shake it, and it doesn't fall out. So it's not like it's loose, but it is not so tight that I can't take it out. So there you go. That's this knife. Is it worth the price? I think it's worth the price, but you know, it's not a high recommendation at all. You're going to have to really want what this knife offers you. If you're looking for something like this with a really good handle, you know, then, you know, there you go. Here's a good example of a fixed blade with a really decent handle. And it's good around the campsite, around the garden at home, you know, stuff like that is what I probably would recommend this knife is for. Very thick, so it's not going to snap the tip easily at all. You know, I'm just going to go over the pros and cons again if I keep on talking. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are the best. If you are shopping from GearBest, I've got links down below. I don't know of this knife at any other store. I think this is, I didn't mention it yet, a copy of a German knife, Herbert's company. I think they've got some knives that look like this. In fact, if you look at the pictures, I didn't see it when I ordered it, but one of the pictures shows a blue box, and Herbert's company uses blue boxes, and that's, you know, a German company. So it's a copy of a German knife. But then again, most knives are copies, at least in some shape, some way, shape, or form. They're copies of somebody else. It's just the way the human brain works. We do like some originality, but we copy things like crazy, even when we don't mean to. So there's the knife. I like it. For the price, yeah, it's a reasonable knife, but you really have to want something like this. And the negatives, for me, I don't mind having this knife, but I wouldn't buy it again. You know, if I lose this knife, I'm not going to go out and get another one. That tells you something about what I think of this thing. GearBest still has their 3rd anniversary sale going on till the end of March, so just another day or two. If you're interested in that, they've got all kinds of prizes and awards and coupon codes and all kinds of stuff going on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, guys, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.